so excited about launching our 2025 OSAC season. Let's go on ahead and call or do our roll call. Sorry, Pete, begin with that.
All right, we have Amber Greaves
Here.
Christy Verbeck there, Jeffrey Wade
Here.
Joanne Maneri
Here.
Kara Noisy,
Yes.
Michael McDonald
Here.
Rita Trainer
Here.
Todd Gleason
Here.
Tracy Bain
Here.
and then for council liaison we have Stephanie Miller.
And Mike Foster is sitting as well.
Just want to briefly introduce myself, Mike Foster. I'm really looking forward to working on it at the OSAC. It's something that's near and dear to my heart. For those of you that aren't aware, my day job is actually working with Boulder County Parks and Open Space. So it's something that's very near and dear to my heart. So I really do appreciate all the work that you're doing to help conserve and preserve land in Superior. So working with January 1st holiday. This meeting got bumped to tonight, which is also the SILK meeting, and I'm also liaising with that. So I appreciate Stephanie filling in for me tonight, but I'll be back here in February, hoping to do whatever I can to support you.
All right, team, let's look at our agenda. Everyone had a chance to look at it. Are there any changes that we need to make based on that review? Okay. Now is time for public comments. Before we proceed with that, what I'd like to do is just take an opportunity to say this is a fantastic way for the community to give us input and their perspective on various topics. It is not a discussion, but it will certainly help us tee up future agenda items. So starting first, are there any public, or is there public comment here in the room? Do we have visitors? What about online? Okay. Let's proceed with staff updates. Staff updates.
You want to start? You want me to go?
You can start. We're gonna be short.
Okay, a couple things for staff updates. One, the goats are in town. Hopefully, folks have had a chance to get out there and observe their hard work munching away. They are located, the goat grows. Staff are located in the parking lot in the basketball courts at Community Park right there at the Indiana and Colton parking lot. Seems to be working out fine. So they should be there for 90 days. And just as a reminder, we did get grant funds. We were awarded 3 years of grant funding for just the cool weather portion of our grazing. So this winter time period. So that's really exciting news. And
That's great.
yeah,
3 years.
3 years of the winter time. So we're still looking at funding through the FEMA hazard mitigation grant for summertime grazing. And that has not been finalized yet, but this is a good start. We will have a public event, some kind of engagement with the goats so people can get to know them. And because we don't want them interacting with them too much on a day-to-day basis, because they're busy, we will do a public event where people can come and feed the goats, and they'll have some of the younger ones out there, which is always fun. So we'll let you know when that's coming around. Also, as part of our FEMA hazard mitigation grant, which we should hear about soon, we're obligated to do 6 events around weed mitigation. So that's a lot. And
goats.
no,
Having an event for the goats, does that?
it's more about hand pulling. So
Okay.
we'll pick some dates, and maybe, for those of you who have been active with the Weed Ambassador program, you can help us select some dates. But Ari and I will be working on that. We also have an opportunity through Team Rubicon, which is a volunteer group. to do some fuel reduction, basically tree removal, brush removal in the original town area. And they're gonna be focusing on the new open space that we acquired, but they're also gonna be working with one of the property owners that has private property there as well. So that is currently scheduled for the end of February with a kind of a weather alternative day of that first weekend in March. So it'd be February 21st, 22nd, or March 1st and 2nd. And we'll be looking for volunteers. OSAC doesn't have any official role in that unless you want to, but they're going to bring in about 30 volunteers. They'll have heavy equipment, chainsaws, bulldozers. They're going to do some work.
Can I ask a question about that? Because, I mean, obviously, there's some things that maybe need to be cleaned up, but on the other hand, a lot of that brush and things that are maybe beneficial to wildlife. So how are we balancing that?
That's a very excellent and good question. We have walked the site with them once. We'll go through and mark trees that we don't want them to take.
Okay.
We'll work with Peter or any of the, any of the volunteers who want to be part of that. We're also working with the private landowner because he also wants to salvage some of those trees and some of that habitat. So it'll be a combined effort, and certainly anybody who wants to be a part of that can be. I think we're looking at taking specifically their mission is trees that were lost due to fire or that have fire scars on them and that are somewhat impactful visually to the community in a negative way. So those will be some of the things we target.
Those dates again were
February 21st and 22nd with an alternate of March 1st and 2nd.
Oh, yeah, I would love to be kept in the loop on, when you're gonna do that walk. Not, I don't consider myself the expert as much as I just think, maybe Eulens people who could help make the case for what should be kept.
Yeah.
And Leslie, that was was that anywhere there was, just anywhere in Superior? They were gonna, sorry,
They're looking at original town. So we have.
You have dates, but you don't have time yet.
It'll probably be all day. Those
Oh.
days. They're bringing in 30 to 40 volunteers. So it's gonna, they're gonna be set up in town hall. They're gonna have, it's a pretty big operation. We're gonna have a chipper on site. So Wildfire Partners is gonna be helping with that as well. And what else can I tell you? Yeah, I'll definitely keep you tuned in, and maybe we can set up a date for people who want to go through and help. The private property is a property we are looking at for open space in the future. So we're actually helping to do some maintenance prior to acquisition. So that's good. And then just a reminder, volunteer reception is this Friday here. That was the rescheduled date for that. 6 o'clock, 6 to 8. You are all invited to that, and those are all my updates.
I think you covered most of it. I feel like, for me, it's just more about programs that we have. A few programs starting in January. So like one of them is like in nature journaling. We have a bird walk with Dave Sutherland. We have another walk I think scheduled. I remember the date on that. And I know that Peter's doing training coming up this Saturday. And most of my updates kind of fall, like they'll pop up like through the agenda. But Peter has training this Saturday here in Industrial, I think it's at 10 a.m. for the raptor monitoring program. And we had ours, the wildlife one last night. I felt like it was really good, really informative, a lot of repeat volunteers, which is great. And then we have, I think, 24 volunteers signed up on SITSI already, which is great. Other than that, I think that's it.
And this nature journaling, the bird walk, all of that, that's on our town superior website
It's
for
on-
registration.
Mhm. It's all in Civic Rec, so registration should be open right now, and then, whoever's interested just signed up.
All right.
Civic Rec.
Fantastic, thanks. Moving on to the open space management plan. I don't even know how should we proceed?
I can provide an update. So we met earlier today with the consultant, just as a kickoff, and this was a proposed timeline that they gave us, and certainly, welcome any feedback or input on this, but the idea would be kind of targeting our end date of getting it to the board on August 11th. And we can send this out. Yeah.
It just helps with notes.
I'm looking at maybe that final recommendation from OSAC in July, the end of July. They definitely want to come to the July 9th meeting to present to you all. That'll give you kind of time to then review the information and then come back with a recommendation. Those dates may not actually line up with some of your meeting dates, but we can shift things around. Site visit, we're kind of waiting on a nicer weather day to do some of that, but I'll open that up if any of you all want to tag along for that.
Will you send us dates
Mhm.
for site visits?
Yes, yeah. It might be somewhat, last minute, just because
Yeah.
we'll try and target a nice day, ahead of time. We are meeting with the planning staff just to coordinate the comp plan with this open space management plan to make sure that everybody kind of understands how those two are going to interact with each other. Our maps are going to be generated, internal staff is going to work on that. So we've got some great staff internally in our planning department who are great at mapping. So they've been working on updating a lot of our online maps already.
And that's gonna be done by February 21st.
Yes. So that's target.
It's a soft target.
It's a soft target. There are some pieces, if you look at the old, I should say not old, the previous open space management plan, which was from 2010, there's goals and policies in there. And I think there's a lot of good stuff in there. There's some old stuff that we can probably rotate off of the plan, probably need some new things in there. But I thought it would be, my recommendation anyway, would be to see if we had a couple volunteers from this committee who wanted to work on some of that, just to get some of it done outside of this meeting. So like a working group, we can do that with 2 people. We don't have to call it a public meeting. 3 people we do, but if folks are interested in that, there is going to be several sections that reference prairie dogs. So hopefully you're willing to review those. Be our official prairie dog expert on those. That would be awesome. But really, there's a lot of good information that we have already, but putting it into usable format, bringing it up to date, so it's very visual, map oriented. We can have it on the website and have it be interactive a little bit more than just a Word document, which is what the old one was. But if I can go ahead and send that 2010 plan back out so folks can take a look at it. Obviously it was prior to some of our land acquisitions. It was prior to the Marshall Fire. It was prior to doing any goat grazing. So all that information is going to be new. We did talk about having at least a reference to some of our prehistoric, indigenous, background for the town. So, those of you who've been involved with OSAC for a while, have probably read some of the reports done by Smith Environmental. So the gal who did all those is working with the consultant.
Oh, okay, that's
So
great.
all the
That's
information on, you know, habitat or native, you know, plants, soil, climate, she has all that already done. And she actually just finished a report that was required by FEMA on some of our, any endangered wildlife in the area. So that's newly done and can be part of this. But I think, looking at, you know, how OSAC's role is growing from just, you know, not so much just acquisition, but land management, habitat, wildlife, all those things. So trying to incorporate that.
Did she identify any endangered wildlife in our area?
I know that the jumping mouse, the pre-bull, I think there is some, habitat within Superior. It does reach down here. I don't know that there's been any, observations, any of them in the area, but
Growing owl.
I can't remember if that was or was not mentioned, but.
You guys have that information.
Definitely. Part of the question was how we want to do public outreach.
Yeah.
Do we want to do a survey, your favorite thing? You know, I think there's benefit to having that opportunity for input, but then the buy-in that comes with that when people feel like they've had a voice. So, I mean, we can do an open house, we could do, some kind of engagement during, Arbor Day. That's about the only opportunity. I think National Trails Day is too late.
Well, I'm looking at I know it's soft target, but the timeline, it's such a short period. Are we really looking at April 16th through April 30th?
I mean, it can definitely stretch out, but I think you want to do it early enough that if there's something that comes up that maybe is new or different, or we haven't thought of, that
Arbor Day is which day?
like 6th,
April
26th, Saturday. So we definitely could do, you know, have a table and have public engagement there.
Leslie, would it ever be possible, like with our discretionary budget, to send out something like a postcard with a QR code? Like, I know all the emails, sometimes people people start to block those out for a while, but with that, I have no idea what that would cost.
I can
But I
find
would
out.
that might be a nice targeted way to solicit some input if we have a survey and specific questions.
Yeah.
Or like surveys haven't been positive.
Oh, no, I just don't like repeated surveys. So when you ask a question and then, you know, 6 months later, you ask me the same question, it's just kind of annoying. To your point, I think if we have those specific questions to ask the community instead of just, you know, pages of questions, but, you know, what are we really hoping to achieve from community engagement? You know, having some structure and, I think that would be helpful.
And as far as questions to ask people, do we want people to come up with ideas and bring them back to the meeting next month?
I think that's actually a great idea.
I think that would be.
And, you know, they have the Parks and Rec Open Space Master Plan from 2021. They have that. So there's some information there. Just think about what do you want verification for, and what do you want that maybe wasn't part of that plan?
I do like when we have the community engagement open houses. I'm kind of curious what you all think, but when you have the opportunity to put stickers on maps,
Yeah.
There's something very empowering about that,
Yeah.
you know, of the tangible, this is my input on paper. I would suggest we do something like that, and that could be Arbor Day.
could be
also
Arbor Day,
something at the
it
community
could-
center.
It could be a standalone
Right.
opportunity, whatever it could be both.
Right.
If you would recommend both of those, we can do that.
Is there anything that coincides with comp planning? I'm not completely up to speed on that right now, but are there any bigger public input or public work sessions or anything like that coming up with that we could coincide?
I can double check. I do know that with the information they're gonna be asking is very, 10,000 foot levels, very
Yeah,
high level and more,
And not as targeted as what we're.
that makes sense.
maybe not as targeted, so I don't know that we would get the same
Yeah.
crowd.
Okay.
I don't know.
I feel like it makes sense to put in, to do like a booth in Arbor Day because it's already a day focused on, the environment and
Yes.
when we plant trees and all that. And I feel like it will draw in a specific crowd and the audience is already there. If you do a standalone, I think that's gonna be harder to encourage people to go. Because it is a very big event. Arbor Day.
How successful has the town been with Shape Superior?
I think it's been more, successful than people have anticipated. Because, I think typical survey responses, we always exceed that kind of national standard for what you typically get on survey responses. I think there might have been a few exceptions. Some of the housing surveys, I think, didn't have quite the same response, but I think others.
Advertising through Shape Superior.
Yeah, when we did the one for the Prost Master Plan, we had great participation. When we did the
Yes.
one for the civic space planning, we had great participation for that. I don't know. It's fairly easy tool to use. I would just say don't ask too many questions, because if it's short, people will actually fill it out and then,
Do the consultants have a set of questions that they want addressed?
they might make some recommendations to us, but they'll probably ask us for ideas. And then their skill set is more about how to best word them so that you're not directing people to answer a certain way.
Sure.
That it's a fair survey, fair and open-ended survey. And then how many questions are open-ended where people fill in the blank because you don't, versus, okay, so maybe just a few are open-ended because those take a lot of time to compile and go through versus, A, B, C, D or yes, no ones, which are the biggies.
And I do think that'll have to come with some sort of preamble that explains that this is the comprehensive plan. Because we have done the Coyote, we've had the Coyote Ridge discussions, and that can be very confusing.
Yes, and I think showing people the 2010 management plan
Right.
is helpful because that kind of sets the stage for what we're looking at.
I like the idea of us coming back next month with ideas of how to have
The questions.
some structure to questions.
It seems like one of the overarching questions we're often faced with is how passive versus active we want some of our open spaces to be. So I wonder if a lot of questions will kind of center on that without us delving into territory of like parks and trails and all of that,
And there will be some overlap, and that's actually gonna be one of the items that the comp plan also will address is land. They'll look at it as far as land use.
Right.
And so we know that we have zoning for open space natural, and we have zoning for open space recreation, and we can provide some additional detail to what you all recommend, what does that mean for what do we do there and how we manage it? But then there's a lot of open space, which is really, you know, it was part of the Rock Creek, you know, when they dissolved the Rock Creek, Metro District 1 and 2, and they gave it to the town, all those common areas that are like in between the houses. Some of it is park, some of it is right away. It's right, you know, it might be at the entry of the neighborhood. But how do we classify that? And is it green space versus open space versus park, you know, so we're kind of coming up with those designations. And if you look at the new home rule charter, there's some reference to designating open space.
Right.
And so I think as part of the management plan, you know, when we do our mapping, we're going to have to say this is zoned open space natural. We know those areas because it's Coyote Ridge. It's all the areas we acquired in original town that were zoned right off the bat, rezoned. And then we have other areas that we acquired, you know, as part of easements with Boulder County or some of those other ones that have some specific guidelines on how they're designated and managed.
But then to your point, I mean, we have a lot of green space, but green space doesn't really equal open space, but we have a vested interest in still protecting it. So I think we want that language in there too. And it's important, I think, for town continuity, because I think there is a sense of some developers who, or those who are trying to develop, who think patch of grass is open space. And it's not. It's still nice to have. We want that, but it's not open space.
And then I think some of the typical OSAC things, your recommendations for acquisition, your recommendations for trails. Rebecca, the gal from Smith Environmental, is pretty knowledgeable about our properties, and she brought up that we have a lot of wetlands, small wetlands, all like even in those finger areas. And so maybe referencing those, because we don't really reference those in the 2010 plan. And it's a little bit different than Coyote Ridge, which really drains out. There's not a whole lot of wetland up there, but she did mention that there's quite a bit of habitat associated with these wetlands, and they're just little pockets, and you know,
We protect them and manage them.
Yeah.
Because they're right, like outside of people's backyards. and
Yes.
Right near homes, and how do we, there are corridors that, you know, coyotes go through. So we were talking about.
So are you looking for OSAC recommendations on designating each of these areas?
I wouldn't say each of them, I would say categories. So coming up with how do we want to designate the different types of open space. So if there's green space that's mowed and irrigated, I wouldn't call that open space. I don't think you would call that open space. There's right of ways that are kind of natural, but we do mow them occasionally, but they're not really open space either. But I think that there are, you know, pieces of property that we're going to want to manage differently based on, does it have trails? Does it have interpretive opportunities? Does it have a trailhead? Those kind of, is it a connector to county?
Will the maps reflect maybe color coding these to
Once.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But like, and I think I brought this up in the last meeting, we had over by where Care lives, there's the open space that has a connector trail, and it's mowed all the time. But I think of it as an open space area, not like just a corridor
Mhm.
space, but
But it's just by the side of the trail.
yeah,
That's it.
no, it's Rock Creek is on one side, the parkway,
Mm-hmm,
and Riverbend Park,
mm-hmm,
you know, the pond is on the other side,
mm-hmm.
and it's a connector.
It is a corridor. Yeah.
Well, and that's the other thing we brought up was that OSAC may want to identify wildlife corridors as
Okay.
well.
Okay,
Yeah, it's something very.
and the person, right?
Tracy, that would be awesome.
Because it falls under the management, like if there's certain areas and certain pockets, like, let's say locals know where this bird's nest is, or where maybe a coyote den is at, and then people don't know, like, we want to recognize that so we know how to manage and protect those spaces. So if it's something that's like, okay, this is a protected wildlife habitat, this is how we should manage it, there shouldn't be anybody, you know, walking through it, things like this to disturb it. So, but there's so many little pockets around here that people know, okay, I know where that's at, and I know how this has been used, but is it really beneficial in the future, you know, to keep using it this certain way? So we're trying to kind of find different categories on how to manage it the best way.
And maybe that can be a homework assignment, is just think about the different types of properties that we have and maybe what makes sense for how we designate them or call them out. And then we probably will have to go parcel by parcel and say, does this fit into this category or does it fit into this category? Now, if it's already zoned, that's a done deal. But a lot of these properties are not officially zoned. So.
I think this would be great for, next meeting, we could put this on the agenda too, almost kind of a brainstorm. You certainly think about it as homework, but we could even have, a board up front, a screen up front, and we could just brainstorm. What is it that we need to have included in our comprehensive master plan so that it will be incorporated into the town of Superior's overall plan?
Do you currently have a map that you could send out to all of us that would identify all the green spaces that are owned? And I'm saying green spaces, I'm not making it.
There actually is one on the website, and I can send the link out, although our website's changing over tomorrow, so
Yeah.
there's gonna be a little,
already.
there's gonna be a little gap in the ability to access it, but I think what it's called out as on the current map is visual open space, which is kind of weird. To me, that's a weird name. I don't know what that means, but it's those areas that we don't have a trail through it. But people can, it's the benefit and the value is you see it. So,
Jeff, did you have?
You see it on the, yeah, over the term, this should be evident, I guess, but I find it confusing now and then as to what open space is. Is there designated open space in other places that we call open space or maybe call?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, we're asking for, community feedback, especially. I think it's really important that we be clear because when I talk with people about open spaces and what's open space, I'm not sure I ever get a real clear definition.
I think that's the challenge. we
Yeah.
face. Mhm.
And I think that's why you're trying to say that we try to get a grasp on that by coming up with these categories, right?
And I think it will be helpful because I know when the planning commission came to visit the last time, and they're always fantastic, but our definitions do not match.
And I've seen that term visual open space somewhere on, not in some, I think national parks. In some places are designated visual open space, just so that they don't block a view of something else. It's beyond, not so much looking at the space, but looking beyond the space.
Yeah.
It's a good point, because I think,
Town 15 is a good example, which is not designated open space, but so much of the value of that is you can see the mountains beyond it.
Yeah.
very good.
Okay, so the homework takeaways are one, we're looking for, and we're gonna come to this later this evening anyway, for workplace, but we are looking for 2 volunteers who can review the 2020 plan,
2010.
2010, and then come back to us with ideas of how and what we need to incorporate or what we need to change. We're looking for specific questions that we could send out for community engagement to help with this. And then we're also looking for what categories. This is our great opportunity. I like that idea of identifying those wildlife corridors. Where are they in the town of Superior? But along those lines. Am I missing anything else?
Can you clarify for me? Because I had separated the specific questions from the categories. And from the reviewing the 2010 plan. I didn't realize that the questions were all supposed to come out of the 2010 plan.
No.
Oh, so there's really like 3 things then.
Mhm.
Okay, no.
Volunteering now, or
I mean, if you, we can do that. We're gonna come to that section anyway, but I am kind of curious. Anyone interested?
Sure, I'll jump in.
So, okay.
I would be too. And Amber said she would and Tracy.
Awesome.
Right. No. Yeah.
I can look at the very much pieces.
Yeah. I can help you, yeah. Maybe. For me.
Awesome. Gonna come to that here in a second. All right. Next up on our agenda is endorsing the Bird City Proclamation. That is, did everyone have a chance to read it? What are your thoughts?
It's exciting.
I really thought it was well written and it was robust. And is there anyone here that has issues with it? And something? Because I would really like to proceed and go on ahead and make recommendations. Because what this allows us to do is have the town board set a date, essentially, and hopefully sometime in May,
For
right?
the Bird City,
For the Bird City. Yeah.
event, for the event.
Yeah. So as I was thinking about this, I was thinking we could say OSAC recommends the Superior Town Council endorse and implement the Bird City Proclamation. Is that sufficient, you think? Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that OSAC recommends the Superior Town Council that the Superior Town Council endorse and implement the Bird City Proclamation. Do I have a second?
Second.
And then all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Awesome. No, that was fantastic.
Peter did mention yesterday that, trying to finalize the application to submit it by March 1st. I think he said March 1st. So that way we can, look at dates that doesn't like, what do you call it, overlap any town events or other cities that are around us. They do it around May and October.
Oh,
So we don't want to overlap their events as well.
that's fair.
So we're trying to be selective on like what days in May make sense and hopefully not too close to like National Trail Day. Then we can go back to that. Where
Do we know the Louisville or Bluefield dates? Whose Bird City did you go to last year? Louisville?
Lafayette. Yeah, Lafayette. And then Peter went to, I think he went to Arvada.
Okay.
Yeah. To kind of see like how they do things and what vendors they have up there. We got a better idea of it, but hopefully we'll submit the application by the March 1st deadline and then we can set a date for May.
Awesome. And so Leslie, does town staff then just pass that to town council?
We will target a council meeting for them to read the proclamation.
Okay, great.
It's probably too late to get it on for Monday, obviously. I think the last meeting in January or the first one in February is plenty of time. I mean, is that
Sounds great.
agreeable to everybody? I'll see how the, agenda is, how full they're getting, but since it's usually on consent, but they do read it.
Mhm.
So. Do you have any input on that? No? Okay.
All right, well, thank you. Let's move on to the next is our 2025 selection of officers, assignments, and work plan adoption. So for starters, we're looking for our 2025 chair as well as our vice chair.
I nominate you for the chair.
Well, I tell you all, I would be honored to continue, but certainly welcome if anyone else has any inclination.
I nominate you for vice chair. Or if anybody, and I would have the same caveat, if somebody else would like to be the vice chair. What's nice about the vice chair is that you get to learn a lot from staff and hear about what's coming up and understand it, but you don't have the responsibility of being the chair.
And the vice chair does a whole lot of work.
You guys are great.
Any other nominations? Do we have to vote? I'm not sure if we do. Okay,
Oh, let's just do it.
okay.
Tie it up.
All in favor for, well, do we start with our motions? I'd like to make a motion that Rita be considered for, or be nominated for vice chair. Second is Christie, all in favor?
Aye.
Yay.
I nominate Karen.
All in favor?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you, team. I am very excited about all the work that we have for 2025. So thank you. And I'm coming up towards the end of term in 26. So this allows me to finish one full year. So I'm excited about that with a little time left over. So thank you. Excited to work with you a little bit more. So thanks, team. Now let's talk about the work. That's the assignments. I know we have some subject matter experts in the room, but and I'm hoping they continue, prairie dogs and wildlife. But I think what is fantastic about this group is it doesn't preclude others from joining in. So do we have the list that we can broadcast for assignments or?
Oh, I don't know.
I see Rita pulling it up right now.
I can. See it too.
Do you want to shoot it to Kari? Yeah.
Yeah, so let's do that. Because I would like a visual on, and it's entirely possible as we look at these assignments that you all are doing work that maybe isn't on the list. And I'd like to capture that as well. As well as thinking, is there something that should be on the list? Start at the top.
Make that a little bit bigger.
For those in the room. So let's just run down real quick. We're doing pretty good on time, so I think we can do this. So OSAC pre-meet, that's something that Rita and I have done before a meeting, and Tracy, you and I did this before as well, meeting with town staff before our actual meeting. It doesn't, just for reference, this doesn't have to happen. It's just a level of synergy that we have included to try to make things run on time and efficiently. So that's what Rita and I have been doing, as well as the agenda and the pre-work, looking for contributions. The summary notes, I'm totally okay with doing these, but for your reference, this is after every meeting, by Friday. I usually try to have it done by Thursday. It's a paragraph that our team, I'll write it, but we send to town staff so they can include it in the what's happening. just a quick blurb. It's different in our note taking because the note taking tends to be more robust. So a paragraph versus a page. So that is what that summary is. Meeting notes.
And what's showing up on the website in the past? Your notes,
The agenda notes.
not your summary.
No.
The summary, is included in the town
Packet.
packet.
It's very strategic and it's not. Yeah, it's gonna be a transition.
On the board packet, it is in there.
I think so.
Yeah,
And
it's somewhere, but I wasn't sure.
And it's also, it's posted, I've seen it in social media world with the what's happening.
Okay.
And yeah, so. The meeting notes, we've done that rotational. And again, just for historical perspective, I know when several of us, when we first joined, at the time, it was the vice chair that did all of the notes, the agenda notes. And so it's been about, what, 3
Since I've been
years.
vice chair, 'cause I said I wasn't gonna be
That
vice
we
chair.
said it would be great to spread that fun. And I think that's been working. And you already have that lined up,
Yeah.
right?
I signed up for the show.
Wildlife encouragement team, Tracy and Joanne, you've been working it. Although I'm curious, is there any subcategory of this that we need to develop or room where others may want to
I think we need,
participate more?
I think we need to, get more people in the group, because when I send out a thing for a meeting, sometimes there are only two of us that show up.
Okay.
So I don't know if people have lost interest. I know that we've gone on a few walks, but the weather has impacted a couple of those, but the walks have been great. When Tracy comes or Jamie or Peter, and they seem to be, the core of who shows up.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering how we could best recruit people for the wildlife encouragement team.
And we can work with our communications team if we need to do a little, marketing, rah, can be part of the encouragement team.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful because, I set up a meeting and people are not the only ones that are there. And, it doesn't seem like we can get anything done.
To think about that, Tracy, do you have any thoughts too? Which,
I mean, it does seem to have lost some steam. I think one of the other things that maybe would help is if we could identify, driving issues, that people were really working on. And the roadside thing is a issue, an issue that these people want to work on. So that may increase participation as well. But yeah, I think maybe that's part of it too, is if we could get just a few more people together to find an issue or two that the team was going to work on, I think that might encourage people to participate with goals and things to
Something people can get fired up.
Yeah. Because the walks are great and I always find them super educational, but I think they feel very optional for people. Yeah.
any other thoughts on wildlife encouragement? Okay, Raptor program, I have listed still, I see Joanne and Tracy on that both. Is there anyone else that's been doing a lot of this or? How's this program going? Is anyone else interested in getting more involved or? Again, what I hate to do is preclude anyone from feeling like there is. Again, we have subject matter experts here, led by Peter, an amazing volunteer for our town. But I really think that we risk including participation from our committee. So I'm curious if anyone wants to join.
What I might be interested in either the wildlife or the raptor it partly depends on calendar. I was designated for the system of weed pullers this year. That was all, and then I finally dawned on me, that's always on a Wednesday morning and I can't do it on Wednesday morning. So we know what,
Well, so,
particular days of the week these are. If there's a
well, the raptor monitoring program is not a day thing. It's really just being an interface to Peter, and bringing his information to the group. So that's really all that fits into this. Yeah.
And Peter writes great reports. And he leads a walk at least once a year. And he's doing the training and I'm going and I said, you know, I don't know anything, I know what a hawk looks like and I know what an owl looks like. Beyond that, he said, well, I'm willing to lend you a spotting scope and I'll teach you. So, I mean, he's very willing to help anybody learn about raptors.
And although he has that training scheduled up, he is pretty flexible to meet throughout the year.
And
That works with his schedule. And honestly, you see the world differently after a walk with Peter.
is that not Saturday?
Yes.
Yeah, but 10, okay.
Yeah.
Where is it?
It's here. It's in the room.
Okay, cool, great.
I should ask, do you both want to continue in your roles with Raptor?
I will continue to be involved with Peter regardless. So, yeah, I talk to him daily. So it doesn't matter, but I mean, I don't have to be the official liaison.
Yeah, but this way we can put it as like, there's always a backup.
That,
You might as well get credit.
And really the same question then for wildlife monitoring. If Tracy and Joanne, keep seeing your names pop up on doing great things. Are you overwhelmed?
let's put it this way, I would not choose to get wildlife monitoring. It's a lot of work at certain times. It's been, pretty heavy lift over the last month, but that's my baby. So if, yeah.
And she did a wonderful training last night.
I will read about
It's really good.
mostly actually. Anyway, yeah, I know, I'd love to.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So, prairie dog planning, again, another one of those subject matter experts is Amber.
Yeah, I can continue to do that. I think it'll just be yearly updates to it. It's definitely not many hours per month.
You know I'm curious what your thoughts are of having someone on the team that can be not necessarily an alternate, but I think while you're with me, you've got a year and change left of your term.
You need to understudy here, so.
Exactly. I think it would be a great thing for you to meet with someone occasionally throughout the year, just to start passing on some of your knowledge. That would be, and so to that, I would ask, is anyone wanting to be an apprentice?
So what are you doing other than monitoring populations?
And I'm not even doing that. It's, on private property, I can't really do that, but just, staying aware and updating the playbook with, if there comes a time when we need to translocate prairie dogs, like what are the options? So that's really the piece that needs updating on a yearly basis. But yeah, just kind of keeping abreast of any situations that might arise locally with prairie dogs.
Well, I'm happy to be your second.
Okay.
It actually doesn't sound like
That'd be great.
major.
You have that?
No.
But it would be great to have somebody who has it.
Because with Raptor and wildlife, that's where Tracy, you and Joanne are actually a great mix. You're able to communicate that. And we're not necessarily, we don't have an agenda item, but I would also include that occasionally, usually once a year, it coincides when we have new town council members. That is sometimes when we will posture ourselves in front of this town council to explain the playbook, the prairie dog playbook. So looking for someone who has the wealth of knowledge to do what Hammer does so well. Okay, so thanks, Todd. The trail continuity document. Chris, and it's been Rita.
Yeah, Evan, it's right now it's an Excel file. It used to be a Word document. It really just got too unwieldy for the size of it. So I took all the information that Ryan had compiled in a Word document and put it in an Excel document. It was huge. Like, if you wanted me to send it to you, I can't email it to you because it's too big. So instead I've been each year.
Is that the one that's on the board?
Has to be updated. No, that's not. Trail continuity is all the trails that have ever been considered.
So it's not a geographic document, it's a spreadsheet?
It's a spreadsheet that has little maps on it that Ryan put there because I'm not a map person. I've been at maps, but creating.
So it's like an inventory of all our.
Yeah, that's what it is. And there's a spreadsheet that's the list in there and that you can.
So I went looking for it, but it's not publicly available.
It is
that
not
right?
publicly available, but OSAC members have access to it through Dropbox.
And you know,
And that's where I have to save it because it's too big.
in the past, it has been used for a scoring system. A long
Yes.
ago past. I mean, it really, I don't think it did it when we first joined. So the historical document exists one, to identify the trails within the town of Superior, but it also served as an example of where we could provide recommendations to the town on where trail improvements could be,
Right.
or where connectors should be. We just haven't really.
So
Done that.
annually, there's a document that we forward to council on
That's
property.
It's
That's the
different.
next one. That's the open space acquisition.
So is a trail continuity document ever forwarded to council?
No.
With,
No. But it has been used in the past. Ryan told me when he handed that over to me, when they were evaluating places to do trails and they had asked OSAC in your trail continuity or whatever they called it, that's just the name Ryan gave it. So that's what I.
The last time I
He said we have to use
think
them.
that OSAC did any, with it beyond just, maintaining it, was in 2019. And that would have been to get a sense of what work needed to be done.
It's really just a
And
record of what's been done because people rotate off of.
Right. But we don't want to get rid of it because it is a very robust list.
Yeah. I mean, it tells things that like we considered putting it here, and so we've got like a status that is no longer under consideration and.
Like, I agree with it on consideration.
And now that I think about it, maybe that should be homework for us to put together a paragraph of why we have it and what's been done with it.
Do all the trails have names?
No. They have letters.
I don't understand how it.
In this document.
How do you make
they all
sense out
have
of
letters.
a
There's trail A,
spreadsheet? They don't know.
It's trail B, C, and there's a little map of each one that shows you where it was. And whether it was a proposed one or it actually got built, or one that's for future consideration, or one that was considered at one time, but has been decided to not do.
You said little map is. I mean,
Oh,
they
little
got a-
and forgive me, who's Chris? Chris, Rita.
He was here for one meeting.
Oh,
Yeah.
Couldn't tell.
well, let me,
I know, all right.
I haven't seen the document, but I'll raise my hand and work with you, Rita.
That'd be fantastic. And
It
if
also seems that's something that's needed for a management plan update.
well,
No.
I think that we could look at it and say, do you want it to be public? Do we want to upgrade it? Do we, can we redo the maps so that they're in better quality? And, that might be a longer project than
Listen, and that's
the management plan, but
the example.
It's like the Excel.
Yeah,
And I think some of the reasoning that it isn't public is not all that information is
Official,
or
Sometimes.
necessarily.
Yeah.
That's missing a few documents.
No,
Yeah,
that's
I-
great. That's
so, yeah,
so.
That's
So we're gonna, continue to do that, but I do think maybe with the 2025 version, it comes with some explanations on why we have it. Cause that's actually not in the document.
So available to you in Dropbox, and then there's the whole trail list, and then I came up where I pull in like what it is, the trail name, the status, where it is in Superior, and this is my categorization. 3 divided the town into thirds. Right.
Where it says under investigations, that some work being done on.
Something that it has not been ruled out as being made a trail, but nothing official is going forward either. Like here, the developer was building it, potential. And the status, those were ones that I didn't create. Those, I can't take credit nor blame. But like, there's also a lot more statuses than that, because there's, they were completed, but there's,
All right, so thanks, Steve. The open space acquisition documents.
That's the 41.
Right.
That's
This is
boring.
boring. So Rita, you've been doing that this past year. Is there someone who would like to assist?
I can assist with that, right?
Okay. What's that?
That's an Excel skills done.
Yeah. Open space master plan. Yeah, so last year we said it's kind of what I got the sense of.
Do you want
earlier
to change
too.
that to the management plan?
Oh,
And
good
since
point.
that's, and then, you can update names on there. if you want to. We had Amber, Tracy, Kara, Rita. I think it's all of us, all of you. Team of SAC.
I think that kind of is.
You were asking earlier for 2 volunteers to do something. Is that related? Is that this item?
Yes and no. Because we do want to for our open space. Ask to look at our 2010.
Look at 2010 and then make some recommendations back to the group here.
Yeah, to your point, Jeff, yeah, it really kind of is those 2 people, but it's also comma all of us. We're all working it, but.
Yeah.
And
I think I've already got some questions written down in my own notes that we went over this some time ago. So
who are do we have, raise your hand if you're wanting to be, we said 2 volunteers, but who all was wanting to
And
really take a.
I'll work one-on-one with you on P-Dogs and you on wildlife court.
Okay.
So we can do that separate from these 2.
And
Which
so
would be
Jeff
more-
could be on there as well.
Jeff and Todd.
Okay. Perfect. Fantastic. And the communications agenda. So I get the feeling that for the last, at least 6 months or so, it's just been more of a topic on our monthly agenda of, does anyone have anything to pass to our communications account staff team? But we haven't really had anyone leading that.
Well, we talked about wildlife encouragement, doing something for that. They've been doing a pretty good job picking up the trail etiquette every once in a while without a whole lot of input from this group, which is fine. I think we have material out there, so, and then, they're gonna do the focus on OSAC at the next newsletter that they took pictures for, so that's already in the mix. We'll probably do some informational pieces about the open space management plan when we like do the survey and when we do any public outreach, so people kind of know, you know, what we're doing. But I mean, those are things that staff can get lined up.
So do we need a no separate?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Cause so should I delete it? I was putting all in monthly meetings and
That's
it's
fine.
an agenda item.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's fine.
Well, because then the other thing, when we get to our agenda set plan, I'm thinking about communications.
Yes. Yeah.
But that made it is also separate from the standing.
Yeah.
And they've been doing a good job on dogs on leash too, I think, because that ties in.
I need to bring a copy and have you autograph.
Yeah, when they do their, is it the Hello Superior, they did that section about wildlife, so they would always reach back to me.
Yeah.
If they need to edit things and then all those pictures and things like that.
Speaking of show courtesy, we've had Christy and Mike. Is that something you also?
Okay.
Marshall Fire Memorial, I've been going, but so has Mike and Christy.
I'm happy to jump on that one too, because I
I think they keep them all there.
Yeah.
feel pretty invested in that one.
Right, so the three of us, and wildfire mitigation, Christy.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Keep doing that. And if anyone else wants to join me, that'd be great.
Anyone interested in joining Christy?
Sorry, that'd be great. Watching the California fire.
Get some on or you need someone.
No,
Mike is. Okay, so for the budget, Rita, you have just been a mastermind with tackling this.
Well, yeah, and I say 20 to 40 hours in there. I think it's more on the 20 end anymore. The stuff that I've got built up now, it's just a matter of repopulating it and addressing any changes.
What are you looking for? I know.
We love you.
Yes.
I know. That's,
Are you looking for different?
not that one. I'm not my last year.
Right, well, we appreciate you. Same goes for ongoing
Yeah.
financial.
Yeah.
Right. Community involvement. So this was, kind of our community engagement, noxious weeds program. Jeff, you alluded to this earlier.
Yeah.
But
And
the timing didn't.
with the timing.
Yeah.
But I would imagine we have some flexibility on what days of the week we do these, right?
Sure. And you said
But
that
it
you
was
need
always
6. That was because one of the initiatives that RA had hooked us up with Louisville, and they talked about some of the things they had done and where it was where they would do like a group or maybe on an ongoing basis as opposed to doing 1 or 2 events. So the idea of doing those repeated, well, you needed to come up with a schedule. And I reached out to all the volunteers that were on, and what little feedback I got was pretty much, oh, I'll do it whenever. And if it works for my schedule, great. And if it doesn't, I'll just do a meeting on my own, which that was fine. And we initially tried a couple of different days of the week and times of the day. But what pushes it is it gets hot, and I'm a winter. And so I wanted it earlier, so like, because I get up and exercise in the morning and then I would go weed, but I wanted to clean up and eat and then go weed. So like by 9 a.m. I wanted to be out there so that I could be done and no later than noon, because it just gets too hot.
So all the weed blowers aren't wedded to Wednesday.
No, people would do it on their own, at their own convenience in the area that they preferred. And those that could make the group meetups whenever they could would come. And I don't know that it necessarily will be Wednesday again, I'll send out, what party has do before, I sent out to the group and said, hey.
So Jeff, are you wanting to?
Yeah, I still do this.
And then Rita, you would be doing it as well, but the way I at least perceive this as someone who can kind of be that, the keeper of the data, right? Of,
How many hours, how many
Right.
gallons?
Well, to get that information, that goes to fire.
so someone who would be working with you, from our committee. Kind of how I see that.
And I'm happy to do that again this year, but I mean,
Like Rita was the
Part of
one
the-
that organized every Wednesday and showed up, and we had a consistent, up to like 5, 6 people maybe
that
max.
was the most, yeah.
But there was a lot of people that was doing it on their own time because it was an open space next to their house or something. And then this year, or sorry, not this year, 24, last year, it was about the same amount as like the year before. So people were still really active, whether they were in doing the communal leading versus individual. So we just kept it kind of informal, I think, like show up, pop in when you want. If it doesn't work, that's fine. But it could be any day in any schedule, it could be a bi-weekly thing, whatever works. So it's up to you guys, and I get the data once it's submitted on Google Forms. That's where I calculate everything at the end of the season, and then I have it saved on the spreadsheet.
Does this need to be structured for your FEMA?
We will have some days that we'll call events.
Mhm.
And they might be where we get a corporate volunteer group to come in, or it might be where we get a school group to come in.
Does
Or
it
it
feel like a big, like what makes it a, versus like a communal meeting day versus this, what categorizes?
I think we need to advertise it to the general public for people to show up, volunteer. But I don't, there's no requirement that, you have to have 50 volunteers or anything like that.
But we could easily enough even make that because you did advertising to get people to sign up to join the group. So you could do the same for just
Yeah,
six
exactly.
particular dates.
Okay, so for this, let's leave Jeff and Rita here, knowing that we're all gonna pitch in where we can, whatever program interests us. Rocky Mountain Greenway, the Rocky Flats, I've been doing that this past year and I'm fine to continue, although if someone is interested in this, it really is just checking to see what news exists out there on the trail that will essentially lead from Commerce City all the way up to Lyons. And so the portion that concerns us really is that Rocky Flats area and how the trail connector will come through this area on its way to Boulder and further. It concerns us because of the history of Rocky Flats and the proximity to our town and thoughts of whether or not there is any radioactive residue that could. So that's the only reason why we have been following it. Not that the trail is going to be coming through Superior, but just because of the proximity of it. And so the history of this is we look into the news to see, well, where is it? And really,
So there's no group that's meeting?
not from the town of Superior.
No, this Greenway group,
No,
there is no Greenway.
no, it's a standing item every month on our agenda where whoever is the representative, and again, that's what I've been doing, is where I'll say, I haven't heard anything since September.
So, but maybe to address it a little more broadly, there was a stewardship council,
Yes.
for the Rocky Flats area in general.
Yeah.
My understanding is it's just been disbanded.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know.
So we were just keeping our finger on the pulse of what was happening, but.
So is it a dead item? Or maybe not dead, but
I don't know.
take it off the list?
I mean, interesting things come up like this.
Yes.
We both saw that article about, the scientist took some measurements on a highway.
Something in the air on a highway.
Yeah, that's like information. So it's like a Google search period, right? Look and see what's going on.
There's no state entity or multi-county entity that's involved in stringing together this Greenway.
I don't understand it, because I thought I'd read the
Yeah.
plans to have the trail from starting wherever it is all the way.
All the Lions, you know.
So but there's not some active group doing that.
I'm not sure who's planning it though.
Or is it Boulder County?
No, because it's much bigger than Boulder County.
Mhm.
It's a good question, right? I mean, I'm not sure who's spearheading the construction of the whole thing. I think there's just different entities doing different sections.
It would cut across several counties.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, so,
Well, Lyons is in Boulder County or no?
no.
No.
Lions is full. Lions is full.
Yes.
So Lyons all the way down to Commerce 28 is.
That's Jefferson.
Is mostly,
Level.
there's a little slice that's Jefferson County, depending where you cross.
Okay.
It's in Commerce City.
Yeah.
But Commerce City,
Oh, there's that,
It goes all the way to.
that far east?
Mhm.
Oh my goodness, I didn't realize that.
the vision does.
Right.
Division.
Okay.
Yeah, honestly, that would actually probably be almost a better thing for us to be focused on, is what is the status of this overall path? You know, as some entity, whatever.
Yeah,
Jeff,
this is a
somebody does.
great conversation to have when Mike's here.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, that is
So
great.
he might be able to contribute some good information.
Sounds like a February.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a standing update anyway. I'm fine to keep Googling any updates, but if anyone else would like to help. That's awesome.
And there are multiple stakeholders, our Boulder, or the county, Stewart County, Broomfield, Jefferson County, Westminster.
And the last thing that I think I read actually about Rocky, and I know this is the standing update, but was in September where the city of Westminster said that they were opposed to doing a pedestrian bridge across, at Indiana 128.
But there's a lot of construction there, so.
Yeah.
So that bridge over Indiana is a bikeway bridge, but it's not part of this Greenway project.
It
at
might
all?
be.
I think it might be,
Who's paying for that? And,
I don't.
that's a- maybe that we. And
Let's talk broadly, Lita.
It's probably Jefferson County because it's that Slim
Yeah.
Lake connector.
May I back up, or if you're done with Greenway, may I back up to, Jeff's section on, weeds and bee pollinators? In the December minutes for the Louisville Open Space Advisory Board, there's a statement in there that they have reached out to Superior for, a bee pollinator corridor that runs along Rock Creek.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does that involve us at all? Is there any?
It could, yeah.
we had him come
They
last year,
presented-
and then he runs it, they came and presented to us. And some of us have our yards, my yard is officially designated.
And we
Yard
could.
number 34.
What did Casey do?
Yes, the cluster of, so fly very far, so yeah. Landing spots.
Yeah, going along the creek and then just.
That's what they've done as it pertains to Superior.
No, they will never be done. We could ask for Casey to come and do another update.
Good.
Well, I don't always, everybody's fine. I didn't know whether that was a project that was pending.
On
I don't think it would hurt, and I'm sure he'd be happy.
We will be able to come, and I think we will have some projects. So we did some pollinator projects last year. We did some the year before. They all are contributing to this idea that you're gonna have
story, like my.
pollinators all along that Coal Creek corridor.
Like we did a couple in summer with Youth Corps, like Purple Park, we did like 2 pollinator beds. And then we have a meeting with him about like restoration along the creek. So.
So I mean, if, yeah, we could,
Back again.
I think
It's been a year, like a year.
Yes,
it's been a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he's gained quite a bit of steam in his program and a lot more participation.
A lot more money, yeah.
Yeah, he does a lot of fundraising events.
Fundraising this year, so.
Yeah, that would, we can pick a meeting and ask him to come.
And he's involved in more than just pollinators, so it's like wildlife all along the Coal Creek corridor. So,
And
Like you were to-
years that he did.
yeah, there's like a beaver dam thing. we talked
And-
about last time.
What city is he in? Not Louisville.
Lafayette. I think he's in Lafayette.
Doesn't he do the beaver, like the beaver?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So you're gonna reach out to him about.
They've been.
For pollinators too, Alex Vargas is on a bee board now, and I connected him with the gentleman from the Friends of Coal Creek. But he might be another one if you guys are looking for any sort of bee programming, because he's already doing, like I went to one of the leaf cutter bee things, it was really interesting. I found a leaf cutter bee in my house, I like blew my shirt, and I was like, oh, what do you want? But yeah, he does a lot with bees, and I know he's connected with them as well, so that might be good for you guys.
We had a presentation from the person from the Butterfly Pavilion. I can't remember who that was.
Ashley?
Well, or
There's
Um,
the bee, they have a bee,
bee lady.
they have a group and I can't remember what they call
it was a man who, like, I think he was involved in starting the Butterfly Pavilion. I remember it was when we had one of the. Yeah.
Yes.
I
yeah,
can't remember the.
yes, I know what you mean, but I can't come up with it either, yeah.
They look back on the list, so we have on the list the community cleanup events. And, we have, so again, historical context is we, for a while, the OSAC committee thought of having cleanup projects. Clean the town of Superior until we really realized that the town isn't that dirty.
Yeah.
And what we can do, I think the town of Superior's Click It, Fix It has been fantastic. So if we do see debris and trees or things that have just, gone on, unnoticed previously, we can just report that. So I personally don't think that we need to have an individual for.
I pick up trash every day when we're going walking our dog. And I don't see many other people picking up the trash.
We get a lot on it in our house, but. And so.
Yeah, well,
like,
And I'm just a forwarder. I mean, I'll tell you 95% of what I pick up is construction. And I don't just on the south side. But it's other places that.
But I think that's fair.
If I'm in downtown, if I'm in original town, there's always trash, although downtown has construction going on.
So as a committee, should we go back to thinking about having a cleanup day?
I guess I wondered, and maybe I'm naive, but I keep thinking that if maybe we had a community cleanup day, it would raise awareness for everybody in the community. So when I see all these other people out there like I am, why aren't they picking up the trash? And it's like, it's not like you pick up every piece, but get your hands full.
We did like two or three cleanups, but it was with work groups with Michaela.
Yeah,
We
they
were
were
gonna-
talking about where
We were
people just,
gonna, yeah. That was
You let
like
'em
more
know.
specific.
We always have a corporate group or two and a school group or two that we do cleanups for. They do, and that area along the Sound Wall and Vista Corridor are always, hot there's always trash there just because that's the way the wind blows.
yeah.
We did notice last summer that when the goats grazed, they uncovered a lot of trash in the open space that you couldn't see.
Yeah.
And so you know, maybe there's some opportunity to follow the goat crazy.
And that was because, we got Castle Peak.
Mm-hmm, down in that
Yeah, that
corridor.
was during the summer, so youth corps, on the days that, you know, they were done with the big project, I sent them out there and went to go pick up trash, but there was a lot of trash,
Okay,
random stuff.
and so really, as long as
because
we
we
do have
haven't been doing it.
construction.
I'm just
Yeah.
thinking that, I would hope that it would raise people's awareness and make them see the trash.
And this could be in alignment with Michaela, because we have a meeting with her, next week, to set up with work groups, and it could be related to OSAC, so we just,
Well, great.
you know, not two things.
Let's do
it. So,
Does anyone want to volunteer to be our OSAC lead to work with on staff on this?
Long one complaining about it.
Awesome.
As well, clean up drugs and crime while we're at it.
Okay, marketing events. This has been moved to an agenda item. So we talk about this in terms of communications and marketing. Do we feel like we need to have a lead for marketing? I feel like we're always kind of talking about this.
I think it fits with the communications.
Yeah.
because of that, yeah.
And then conservation fund, so the staff, and again, for just since it's on the board for historical perspective, especially as we were leading up to the purchase of Coyote Ridge, it was a tremendous amount of work from OSAC members at the time who were working with conservation fund to get parties involved. Since then, and Amber, you took over from our previous Tracy, who was on the board. And since then, town staff has really been doing this, but just historical lesson here. That's why that is on the board there.
That has a grant writer now, right?
We have a grant writer on staff, yes. So I don't think that this is one that we need to have anymore.
I mean, if the need arises, we can bring it to the group.
Right.
Yeah, and then, you know, just as we would, you know, designate parcels for looking at for acquisition, like, is there anything conservation, or conservation fund? Yes. So, I mean, there is still, I think most I don't have, but it is on staff, but we can just, it doesn't have to be a regular contact, right?
Do we want to delete the last two, marketing and conservation then?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Just add marketing to the
Marketing is
communications,
Marketing.
Kevin.
So what is not on this list that should be?
I had written a suggestion to you two. I didn't get a response, but would there be value to have a liaison between OSAC and staff on Coyote Ridge master plan and working on projects associated with Coyote Ridge or developing a timeline or
She brings
trail
everything
projects?
to us as pieces that are as things that come up. You mentioned it in our meetings.
We've got the PEA trail.
And it becomes part of the budget process too, and any recommendations there, because it's part of the budget discussion. Like
Yeah.
whether we want something.
I mean, but there
should be more
there
of that.
could be things that, like right now, we have a standing budget item that says implementation for master plan recommendations.
So somebody just spearhead that and to that.
Like, what does that mean? So, you know, this year we have the parking lot and the accessible trail.
Yep.
What do we have for next year? So yeah, some brainstorming, you could work with staff on that. Yeah.
I think that's.
I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah.
I'm out there. Yeah, I'm out there a lot, so.
I think that's great. Anyone want to help out with Todd on this?
And what shall I call this?
Well,
Coyote Ridge, capital projects.
It reminds me kind of as the former Roman Rouge amenities update. But no, I mean, I think this will be a standing update as we look at how we implement that plan and what portions of it.
Yeah, I'd be interested in helping out.
Your names.
What else are we missing? But
I know we have folks who are on the fire memorial. Do we need to put that on here? Okay, never mind.
No.
Done.
and Christie and Mike.
Rodenticide plan,
Yeah, I.
What's
how
that?
should I put that? Just
Yeah.
rodenticide.
Of course.
We're gonna make sure you that one.
And that has been Amber and Tracy.
Is that in relation to the wildlife encouragement team though, or is this a separate?
It came out of them, but.
I think it has a life of its own.
It does. We're
Yeah.
gonna talk about that next, but it will be the implementation of a plan.
Yeah, so that's
Not
what I
a
called
bad
it, I think.
Mhm.
Just curious, does it make sense to do anything with
And Tracy.
cattle on open space and how that affects our users using open space? I know it's.
Do we have?
Well, it's not.
It's not.
No, it's not something we could, yeah, I was just curious if it's, we should talk to or try to influence in some way
I think that it's a conversation
With Mike.
with, yeah, but,
The other one.
just our neighboring communities and how we interact with them on policy, procedure, trail linkage.
So, I mean, I think there would be, I think you're onto something, right? I mean, so it's the cattle, it is our connectivity with other
People
trails.
across
It's,
the road and they don't know whose open space it is, but that's how they recreate, so that's where they live. And I was just thinking about it today, because I walked by where the groups are and they have those nice little movable fences. It doesn't look like it's a heavy lift to put in some geofencing or some type of fencing, so that's why.
would a broad subject be trails?
Or is it?
Yeah, I don't know if it
interface
fits with
to-
one of these. It's a separate item, or if it's just
Or
me.
if it's on, I think if it's in our work plan and that we're supposed to try every year. to
People bring it up.
use Other,
Close.
but with other communities.
Yeah.
And surrounding communities, counties or, and Boulder's a very logical.
Because I brought up last time on Davidson Mesa, they put in fencing
Use.
to keep all the cattle inside the trails. People could still use the trail, they didn't shut it down, right? So that's
I
kind of
think,
what I
I
was
think it's a
thinking.
great, thing to throw out there and maybe that's something we, approach Boulder County with a recommendation.
To expand that into having a committee liaison to Boulder County Open Space. You know,
That
I
might be
think
a
it
way
should
of
be
doing it.
that
follows that
function.
there.
Does that pushing us too much into your area or?
I don't think so. I mean, I think attending their meetings would be fine. You're not on their committee, you're just attending and you could report back. And I think that's great if folks have time to do that.
And it might be just a matter of reading their published notes,
Right.
right?
But I think, again,
I'm sure that-
if we're gonna lobby Boulder County for something like that, we wanna get support from our town council. So it would,
Yeah, that would make good sense.
it would be a recommendation that maybe we would put together after doing some homework.
Right. That's kind of what Louisville put together for Davidson Mesa.
Yeah.
If we do something similar.
Mhm.
Are the two of you wanting to be a work group that moves forward on that? And
I
should
just
that
brought it
be
up
on-
because I didn't know if it should be added to the list, and
Fine.
I think we have some contacts with Louisville, although David's
He's
turned
wrong
out,
now.
but we can probably just contact with.
I still think that's I think it's a great idea for a number of things, not only for this, but also once you start establishing those connections. It can often, we work in the same areas.
People don't think.
Other things pop up. And it's nice to have that contact that you can.
Does it go with fire mitigation? Wildfire mitigation,
That's-
grazing,
They
or just grazing?
have easements, right, to
Mhm.
cattle grazing.
So-
I mean, it's trail access and trail safety.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And it's, I mean, sometimes it'll be talking about cows, but sometimes it'll be something else. And I think, I think it'll be a good way for us to get word out to the community, working with staff about things, because granted, we're looking at OSAC in terms of the town of Superior, but for those who are out there on adjacent trails, it's Louisville, it's
all
Boulder
connects.
County.
Yeah.
It would be great to have that kind of interface with what's going on with where we might be riding our bikes or walking, running.
Absolutely.
I don't think we have to have a formal name of
Yeah,
it
it
right
doesn't have
now.
to be like a separate item, but I
But-
didn't know if it
Yeah.
would fit in with one of those.
But
The trail access, trail safety.
Yeah.
And with the idea that, but I think if you want this to have legs, you're gonna have people who are willing to commit to establishing those relations, to actually, looking at going through the meeting notes or minutes or whatever they call them.
I can
And,
investigate.
and
what is-
potentially looking at the agendas as they come out and seeing, hey, is this meeting we maybe physically want to attend?
Yeah, I didn't even know about it. I just walked through there one day and there's fence and there's the.
Could have plans, we just don't know what right now,
Yeah.
their approach has been, we're gonna close the trail for a month and a half.
It's closed down. A month.
But I'm sure are thinking beyond that as well,
We
we
have-
just don't know what that
We have a
is.
great town council interface there. And
Yeah.
so how about, let's make some time with this, but maybe by March, our March meeting, we can talk a little bit more broadly about what this is. That would give you January and February to
I'll find out a little bit more about.
dig around. Yeah, that's great.
Just thought about it.
Cool. What other? Anything else? A whole bunch. I mean, isn't it exciting, the work that we do? It is kind of cool.
And they're getting their pumpkin.
Well, we can always revisit this as well. We can always come back next month, and if you say, we forgot something, or yeah, I've got this great idea, come with your ideas next week, okay? Let's move on now to our wildlife camera update.
So it was installed the week before Christmas. And with good and bad news, it's taking pictures regularly. The bad news is we had one coyote, a very sick coyote, in the area during the only time that Moultrie has had an outage. And apparently Microsoft Cloud, their cloud service had an outage, and we did not get pictures of the coyote in the area. So anyway, we did have moderate, at least it's working well, all of those good things. I think what's sort of been discussed recently is maybe let's leave it where it is, maybe through the month of January, see what's happening. But if we're not getting a lot from it, then maybe we consider moving it, at the end of the month, over maybe to the new properties along Forward Route, or, the underpass is also an option. So, my vote personally, would just be to move it over to the new corporate properties to see what is there. But, so we can discuss that.
Is the footage accessible?
Yes, it is accessible, and I can share it with you. If anybody would like access to it, it takes a lot of pictures, so you just have to wait there.
Right, okay.
But I might share with you, anybody else want? Okay,
I forgot, is it motion sensitive or just shooting?
it's motion sensitive.
So what's triggering the pictures?
Well, there's been some bunnies. There's been wind. So today I went in and blocked out some areas that we think have the, wind motion plans. So it is a work in progress. But yeah, that's
First of all,
Game camera, right?
It's a game camera, it's just a multi game
Yeah.
camera, yeah. I mean, it's very cool though, it's very exciting, to get this kind of data, and we just haven't, and like I said, it hasn't been worked exactly how we wanted it to at the moment, but
They're getting.
But you know, it's really gonna build into the strength of arguments that we have about corridors.
well, there's no question that this area is a wildlife corridor. I mean, Joanne sees them all the time walking from Post Pond down
Yes.
towards HR. There are multiple coyotes in that area on a regular basis, so it's just a matter of timing it.
And as you move it, I think that, I mean, that's what I'm especially
Yeah.
thinking about. There are some places that others might not think
Yeah.
there's anything there.
Right, and we'll find out.
Yeah.
I have to know.
Yeah, so, and it's all good.
I forgot to email you, and I don't know if this is at all helpful, but I'm pretty sure I know the coyote you're talking about. We had took video and pictures of it. It was on December 12th.
Okay.
Because it was like bleeding and it was scratching so much. So if you want to call, I can send it to you if that's helpful when the camera wasn't taking.
I mean, we've got a lot of pictures of her, it is she, so I don't know when I need them. It's just, I know, it's really hard. She was at the Bose Pond area today, again. So she's still alive, there was a lot of debate whether or not she was still alive, but she at least. Seems, yeah, but in all, yeah, she was still alive today.
And I saw a coyote running south across Vista corridor, and I was walking like,
Oh, okay.
but it was far enough away that I couldn't tell you if it was the one.
Or not, yeah, right. Yeah.
But my dog was.
Well, and if you do see those things and you want to let me know, I can put them in the database.
Do you feel like it's necessary for, because I know where you place it, I get the updates and all the triggers from the motion, usually it
Yeah.
says like, I detect, there's like a plastic bag that was there for like a. Yeah, but it triggers motion.
Yeah.
I just forgot.
Yeah.
But do you think it's necessary to put like a town of Superior sticker or logo on it, or?
I meant to ask you about that, because I do think it would be good, and so far nobody's bothered.
Yeah, just so people don't think like, oh, we can put game cameras, all right, and then if they see you guys going there. And they're gonna think, oh, us locals can just put our own cameras, but we maybe to show that identify like this is by town.
And also, I mean, I think it's just another level of protection too, if somebody were to, yeah, just like, things like that. Yeah. And it fortunately is in the area, not a lot of people.
Right.
If they do, they're in a weird place, but, we can done both things, so.
We can get something made up that's somewhat subtle,
Okay, yeah,
so it's not like white and burgundy.
calling everybody's attention to it, right?
Yeah.
But I just don't know, the camera's small anyway, so it
Yeah.
just needs to be like a laptop kind of tag or something like that.
Yeah.
That would, I would move, yeah, well, actually, after when we install it, we thought about that, right? And I forgot to ask about that. So that would be
Probably
great.
need to put that.
And that's the tech, perfect.
That's the top.
I don't know, just read, I don't know what your capital numbers
For assets,
and your capitalization.
I mean. I think we, pretty much all of our electronics get out.
Right, I think.
Oh, for inventory purposes.
Yeah.
For capitalization.
I know that I'm trying to think of the one in Colton Trailhead, they have the motion box there at the trailhead, I think some of it wear out over time because of the weather, but it's usually like a very, it's camouflage as well, but it says like, this is property of like Boulder County, if you need to reach out, here's a number or something. Like this is for research purposes, things like that, just because some people, they see it and then they don't like it, so. I don't know, I'm trying to think of what wording, to make it.
And like I said, this is not on a path, it's not anywhere really people should be. Yeah, I mean, it's property, but still,
Yeah. Okay.
if that helps.
We'll work on it.
Thanks for all your work on that.
Sure, no, it's been exciting. I mean, like it is very much a work in progress, but I can add you all so you can see the camera.
That would be cool.
you won't have the ability to download or any of those. So I will do that.
And some of your work leads on to our next topic, which is the rodenticides campaign plan policy. You sent us out some homework to review. And in that, did everyone have a chance to look at it? Because it included also a very robust recommendation for our town council. And what I propose that we do now is go on ahead and make a recommendation to our town council to adopt this. My question is, so it is well written, it's 3 paragraphs. Should I read out loud what it is? Okay, so I'd like to make the motion that OSAC recommends the following actions of the part of the Superior Town Council. 1, develop a vigorous public education campaign to discourage the use of all rodenticides outdoors. This plan could include email, social media, and website content designed to educate residents. Volunteers from OSAC would work with the town's communication team to develop potential talking points and alternatives to rodenticides for the communication plan. 2, adopt a town proclamation encouraging residents and local businesses to avoid the use of anticoagulant rodenticides. OSAC recommends the following wording. A, due to the significant risks to our wildlife, residents, and pets, the Council of the Town of Superior encourages all citizens to avoid the use of anticoagulant rodenticides. Residents can learn more about the dangers and alternatives to anticoagulant rodenticides on the Alternatives to Anticoagulant Rodenticides webpage on the Superior website. Link to the page when it's developed. 3, follow and endorse the development of a potential Colorado legislative bill banning the use of all first and second generation anticoagulant rodenticides in the state of Colorado. Note that many countries, including those in Europe, have already restricted or banned the use of second generation anticoagulants due to environmental concerns. In the US, several states, including California, have taken steps to limit their use, particularly around sensitive habitats.
One thing, you mentioned you're reading from an older version.
Oh, okay.
The more recent version is not the second.
Oh,
That
okay.
does not have.
Do you have that in front of you, anyone?
I do.
Okay. Can someone make the motion with the room?
Yes. Do you want me to read all 3?
I think you can start with 2.
Start with 2.
Okay.
really changed.
So, yeah, this would be adopt a town proclamation, encouraging residents and local businesses to avoid the use of rodenticides. OSAC recommends the following wording. A, due to the significant risk to our wildlife, residents, and pets, the town council of the town of Superior encourages all citizens, local businesses, and pest control companies operating in Superior to avoid the use of rodenticides. So just a learn more about the dangers and alternatives to rodenticides on the Alternatives to Rodenticides webpage on their website, link to page when developed. And then number 3, the following endorsing the development of a potential Colorado legislative bill. There's just a change, one sentence. In the US 2011 EPA regulations restricted the residential use of second generation anticoagulant rodenticides, commonly referred to as long-acting anticoagulants. So I think that's happening there.
So what would be first, second motion?
That's all in the body of the motion.
Yes.
Could you send that to me, please?
You have it.
You have it.
I thought we're doing 2 different versions.
I did.
Okay, and then all in favor? All right, so fantastic. So Amber, and my bad for copying and pasting the wrong one. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you could send that to Jeff since he's doing notes.
Okay, it did go to all of
I
us.
was able to.
Okay.
I thought she was reading the version different from.
No.
She sent a revised version. I
Oh, okay.
copied and pasted the
Okay.
wrong one.
Okay, I got you.
Revised version.
Yeah.
On that first one where it says develop a rigorous public education campaign to discourage the use of all rodenticides outdoors. Do you guys want it to say outdoors? Because if you poison it inside, you find its way outdoors.
You know, it's sort of been an original wording. In many ways, I would love to see it be just buried. Yeah, buried.
I mean, just a, yes, I know,
Yeah.
they find their way in and then,
Right, they do get out. Yeah. Yes, so that is a long-standing thing, but yes, so I would vote to amend that and, I'm happy to do that.
So this one you sit on Sunday.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
It was yesterday.
Well, so how about this? I will amend that. And send it to the entire group. Do we need to vote to say we're gonna? I couldn't bring my laptop because it was downloading.
Did you move with,
Yeah.
so is that a friendly amendment? Are you accepting? that?
I
And
am. We're just changing.
Just one
Yeah.
word. I'll just take out the word outdoors.
Yeah.
Okay.
We still-
That's what.
We did.
That's a sort of award or thing.
Tracy Olson.
But the friendly amendment, you don't have to, meaning both who made it and who seconded it or agreed.
And this will fall into what we were talking about in terms of assignments. This will be a standing issue that will, I mean, because it's, we're essentially asking our town to allow us to proceed with the community engagement plan.
So that's my question, I guess, is, so it will go to the town council. Then they will vote, right?
I don't know that they'll vote. They might just, one, it brings it to their attention,
Yes.
which I think is important because it may not be on everybody's radar at this point in time. And then they might support it
Okay.
or verbally say, yes, we think it's a good idea for OSAC to pursue this. And we think it's a good idea to put our communication resources towards this effort.
Right.
And then I think at that point, it's just like the trail etiquette, like.
Okay.
We have, like, everybody's on the same page moving forward. It's.
Okay, so but there's really nothing we need to do other than submit this.
I don't think so.
So the one word that was changed, what?
Oh,
Sorry.
That they may come back and ask for help with fine tuning that if there's any changes, but I think this is a good first
Good
step.
place to start.
Okay. It's gonna be obvious where
Tracy's gonna revise it.
I'm gonna revise.
is it moving within a sentence or?
no,
I think Tracy's gonna change it.
yeah, this was,
They moving,
we are removing the word
okay,
outdoors.
okay.
Holidays that are just outright ban rodenticides. Is that a thing?
I mean,
Yeah. I can live in that.
if, we want to take that strong of a stance as a town, I think that's a question. Does it need to be an ordinance? Or do we start with recommendations and towards that? I mean, I think, a lot of folks are not even aware of the issue at this point in time. It's a public education piece, and then maybe it's time to do, a more aggressive recommendation. But I mean, I think everybody in this room would support that.
Yeah, I think we've been kind of following other legislation nationally, and then, if we can follow what Colorado is doing, and I think that works that way too.
And I think just last week on the local news, they had a piece about it. The dog was sick, ate some of the pellets that were rodenticide pellets.
Well, and just a really interesting little side note, that's anticoagulants. There is, if a dog ingests or child, there's a known antidote for that. Today, now we've got 3 different kinds out there, and it's much harder for vets to know exactly what to do and or doctors, because they don't know, unless the person knows exactly what was ingested, it makes it more complicated. So anyway, I mean, it's in some ways good that they're changing these things, getting away from the anticoagulants, but on the other hand, it is a little bit more complicated scenario. So it's just a really interesting problem. Anyway, I think personally, I'm really glad to see us taking this first step. And then I think over time, maybe we
had at least two recent email public comments.
Yeah.
It's in line with what some residents are talking about as well.
Was our wildlife enrichment team.
So, what are the pest control companies using for rodents?
they have a lot of options available.
They're not using rodenticide.
A lot of them are.
Some
yes,
are.
most are, yes.
So the education piece is working with these companies so that you can ask them to use what you want them to use.
And surveys around.
Good.
Knowing the education to ask the right questions.
Right. Exactly, because there are a lot of homes that the next door neighbor of ours, they did the right thing, right? And they got squirrels out and they boarded it up and, you know, it was all pretty friendly. But I think everybody does the right.
They just don't know.
Thanks for that, Tina. Yeah, I think this is another huge thing for us. So good job, team.
Yeah, great job.
Let's go on with our OSAC roundtables and stay close on time. Jeff, do you have anything for the group?
Nope.
Councilmember.
Nothing. I'll be sad to not see you guys every month. I'll step in every now and
You've
then.
been wonderful, thank you.
What advisory committee are you transitioning to?
And then I'm back up for here in CAPS and then primary.
Some.
One thing I forgot to mention, a program that I really want to, because I mentioned like nature journaling and all that stuff. The one that I couldn't remember at the time, and I think this is really helpful for OSAC and just for people who care about wildlife in general. I got in contact with somebody who works at Greenwood Wildlife, which is the one up in Lyons, like on 66 highway. So they're the group that takes care and like rehabs animals, right? So like if you have an injured bird, injured squirrel, rabbit, whatever, they rehab that and they release it in the wild. And it's just free of charge till like the person drops off unless you want to donate. So I was able to get in contact with one of their employees and she wanted to do a class here for us. It's called the Eco Ranger Awareness Course. So this was one of the gaps I noticed that it's like one of the questions that residents ask me. And I don't have too much personal experience like handling wildlife personally. I'm not animal control. So it makes me curious to learn more about how to handle those situations. And when you stumble upon like, oh, a hurt squirrel, how do you handle that? How do you handle maybe a birds of prey, maybe that got hit by a car? Because hawks, they get hit all the time. So it's like, how do I approach that in the safest, the most logical way? And then, so she is teaching courses. It's going to start February 2nd. It'll be here in the center. It'll be every Sunday. So February 2nd all the way to March 30th. So I think it's eight weeks. And each class, she will have like the teaching portion of the first hour and then the hands-on exposure. So she'll teach you how to make like certain kits to help maybe how to rescue a squirrel. Or and she'll give you supplies and things like that and all the information, resources that you need to, you know, because that's something I think a lot of residents stumble upon, like, how do I handle this situation? And I want to do it appropriately. So she will teach you, all of that. And that's going to be here, February 2nd to the 30th of March, 1 to 3 p.m.
And again, what is the overall theme of it?
Well, it's called Eco Ranger Awareness Course. Ranger. It's a long time. It's Sundays, every Sunday. Yeah, 1 to 3. And it's going to be here at the center, February 2nd to March 30th.
February 2nd.
Yeah, so it's gonna be, it's a free course, but she does have a suggested donation for $10 a course because you're gonna get materials that you get to take home with you. So you make like, let's say like a survival kit for animals, right? You take it home and then she teaches you how to use it. So she wants like kids and families to engage in that. And then, so the materials, the donation is just towards materials, but all the information she'll give you is all included. But yeah, I think that's going to be a really good course, I think, to let residents, just to kind of get involved and they know what to do in those situations.
I assume you could come, as you're available.
Yes, you can come as you're available. You don't have to sign up for all 8 weeks in a row. If you can pop in every other, whatever you want. And like I said, donation based, and you just sign up on Civic Rec, just so.
It is on Spicker.
Yeah, I highly recommend you sign up so she knows how much material to get.
Yeah.
Because if she buys like for 10 people and then 15 people show up, it's, yeah.
And one other thing is is it clear what is each week?
Yes, so she'll have a topic. So on Civic Rec, I put a general description of what it is.
Yes.
And then each one, when she goes over, let's say like the first course, she'll go over like an itinerary. Okay, this is the focus this week. This is what we're gonna talk about, this topic. So like the how, the why, all of that. And
But is that on Civic Rec so that if you?
not the specific course. As soon as I think she's waiting for like signups, and then she's going to, because I asked her like, maybe somebody wants to go to a certain class.
Yes,
or a certain talk. So then once I get more of that information, she just gave me the general just for Civic Rec purposes, but I can go back and if that makes sense.
Well, I'm thinking like Tracy, if
Specific courses.
I would love to know, some topics.
and like that, that one's
On
That
that.
would really expose me a very.
maybe not so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can edit it. I'll ask her for details and then we'll break it down, like on this day, this is what we're gonna go over, this and that.
And is it aimed at kids or adults?
It's for all, I think it was, I'm trying to think back if it was 5 and up or 12 and up. Because if a kid has to be with with an adult. So it's either 5 or up or 12 or up.
Okay.
It's on Civic Rec, I know I put it in the description. Yeah, just want to put that out there.
Leslie, anything for around the table?
Just a quick update on our, parking lot and trail project. They are finalizing the survey. What we did find out is that 2-track trail at the top, which we were really targeting for our ADA trail. There's portions of that are in the CDOT right away.
Oh,
So.
never simple, is it?
It's never as simple as you think it's gonna be. So there might be some sections when we look at actually developing that ADA route, we're gonna have to make some new trail for versus following that 2-track. So, there are pros and cons to that, because they do use that for maintenance, for the tower and to get down there. They do bring equipment down on that 2-track trail occasionally, but, that's just, short little, project for us. It'll be a little bit different. And then I did get feedback from Boulder County Open Space on the, Marshall Fire Memorial Project. They're not opposed to it.
Okay.
They generally thought it was interesting and kind of a great concept. We will have to get approval once we have a plan, like a design, that will have to go to the county board.
And just for context, I'm gonna jump in here. The
Yep.
Marshall Fire Memorial is going to be my roundtable comments. The last meeting, they're still trying to figure out what this Marshall Fire Memorial is, not even necessarily the word it's gonna be called, but where it could be placed. And Norman Roche was one of those places that was listed. Certainly there are concerns with easement for Boulder County there and whether or not we could even do it. So this sounds promising.
It sounds promising. It does feed into that whole, how do we use our open space?
Exactly.
But some of the ideas, as I understood them, out of committee were more of a seating area where people could sit and contemplate with some very low level interpretation.
Yes.
Potentially. So it would not be contrary to any of our open space zoning currently.
Who owns the parking lot? Superior or Boulder County?
Yes. It is Superior owned, but the minute there's
As soon as you cross the gate.
as soon as you cross the gate, it's Boulder County, but the property that sits directly north, downhill,
So
is town property, but it has a Boulder County easement on it. So we have to get their permission to do anything on it. as well as our own town council permission. So
That, is that all the way down to the bottom of the hill?
not exactly, because there's some
I could.
Other little
Because I've been on all these meetings, suggested that too, but to make it easier, if you wanted to have ADA compliant, you would kind of move it closer to the parking lot. Because otherwise, if you make it ADA, and you know this, Leslie, you would have to have a super long trail to keep the grade compliant. So if you move it too far down the hill, then you're creating this ginormous meandering path to make it ADA, as opposed to close to the parking lot, you wouldn't.
But you're also,
Closer to it.
but you're also looking at drainage ditches that are there too. So I mean, they're, yeah, it's a small.
It's a challenging location, but it does have great significance.
Yeah. Thank you. That's awesome update. Signing for Todd, do you have anything? Hi.
Only that I will not be here for next month's meeting.
Okay.
But
Oh, so.
and that's why I have the no taker responsibilities.
No, Jeff is again.
Okay.
Christy? Christy?
I will just throw out that there are some citizens that are interested in building, we have floating platforms for the geese and ducks, on Bowes and Riverbend Pond. And there are people that are interested in adding those kinds of, for Pickle Park, Volleyball Pond and Island Pond.
So I have a comment on that.
Yeah,
They weren't really made for the geese and ducks.
okay.
They were made to help with the water quality.
Well, they're talking about the islands. I think these are, where they're talking about wooden platforms.
Oh, they want like.
So not the ones that have the plants on.
Correct.
Hmm.
These are wooden platforms.
They
Yes.
just float, you just
Yeah.
want them to float like a dock for them, basically.
Basically, yes.
Okay.
Well, that actually might be beneficial because when they do nest on the floating islands that are there for water quality, they eat all the plants and then they don't.
Yeah.
So, okay, I misunderstood that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
So I don't know a lot, but that might be something that the wildlife encouragement team could, advertise as an issue that might get some interest and involvement.
What ponds or what areas? You said volleyball.
They were, encouraging us to put them at Purple Bark, Volleyball Pond and Island Pond.
Okay, like 3.
What was the first one?
Purple.
There's, yeah,
Yeah, so it currently exists on Bowes and Riverbend.
Yeah.
Yes, and they're proposing, Purple Bark, Volleyball Pond and Island Pond.
so those are both in Purple Park, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Purple Park and Volleyball Pond are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cross from the.
And Island Pond is right there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so actually considered three?
All the same area.
The three ponds that are right there. Thank you.
So anyway, I guess more than anything, maybe that's just a while.
The ponds actually are numbered. They're, so we can look at the numbers and we can look at names, whatever you guys want to do.
I didn't even know that they were called island. And
Some people call it donut pond, island pond.
okay, I get that.
Or hot stuff.
Do they want them installed like in the center of the ponds or off to the, were these?
I know very little. And I sort of said I have my hands full, right? But that I would bring it up in round table and see if somebody would take it on. So that's, what I know.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah. Joanne?
Okay,
Great. And the one thing that I have is, because I didn't say it earlier, when it comes to our work plan, I'll be attending the town council meeting on Monday. It'll be on the consent agenda. They don't, in the past, they called us up to talk about it, but that was 2 years ago. We'll just see that and questions for our work plan. And next month we'll take a look at that work plan. It'll be one of our agenda items to make sure that we're lined up for the first quarter. All right.
Thank you.
Let's look at the our standing. We've already talked about Rocky Mountain Greenway. Anything need to add on Raptor program?
I don't think anything that hasn't already been discussed. walks and all kinds of good stuff.
Wildlife monitoring program?
You know, the only thing, we did have a training last night, we were 25 volunteers, the annual report I sent to you guys, unless there's any comments on that. My only question was how we get that sent over to town council, along with the raptor monitoring program. How do we coordinate that?
We can, attach it to the notes, to the summary update if we want for this month, or we can forward it at any point in time.
Okay. I mean, if you want to attach it to the summary notes, I can make sure you have. I have to make sure I have the current version of the Raptor one. I mean, I have it, but it's.
I said with the summary.
I'll find those.
Yeah, and I usually send those by
Friday.
Friday.
Yeah, no, I can do that tomorrow. I will find the,
Awesome. Thank you.
the finals. Okay. The only thing I was gonna ask Par to pull up sit side so you guys can see what it looks.
It looks so
Look at
official.
those cutie pies.
So this is, in the Raptor program is similar, right? But this is the form that people use to submit data now. So can you go click on,
An observation or?
yeah, there are a few, these are older. We just switched over to Sit's Eye on January 1st. So, yeah, anyway, I just thought you guys should see, can you go back to the top and just click on add data?
It's on the left.
It's on the left
at the top.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to scroll on.
You gotta go back.
Back to
I'll
the
go back.
project, so to project, to see if our,
Yeah.
there we go, yeah. So then they just select a menu item there and whichever kind of critter they want to add. And then it takes them to a form that they fill out. So cool.
It looks like.
Awesome. Yeah, so anyway, and we can now geolocate, and we can generate maps of the different locations out of here.
You can select.
So there's drop downs there for the different, common locations, or they can put in a very specific location if they want to using the map.
And it's not the best.
It is the best part, yes, so it's really cool. We can still take photos, so anyway. I think we also have the ability to communicate with everybody all at once, right? We're managing the list of volunteers out of here now instead of it being sort of a manual process. So myself or Peter or Kari can go at any time and see who's volunteering, who's actually completed their account creation, all that sort of stuff, is all managed out of here.
That's what it means.
Made a recommendation to be this past summer, and one of the lead warriors thing, suggesting that might be an easier thing than having to do like the legal docs.
Instead of the forms.
Yeah.
Do this and create a page.
And I don't see why not, because we do have what they call a hub, which is, everything town of Superior rolls up into this hub. So right now, it's just the wildlife monitoring program and the raptor monitoring program. We could easily add lead warriors in there, and you could.
That would be fantastic, because then we could figure out where we have gaps.
Yeah.
And then creating the forms is much like creating a form, Google form.
So this is how it looks like, it's the raptor one and this is the wildlife.
Yeah.
So if you're part of this group, then it shows like, okay, these are the members, how many observations, same thing. So it's categorized.
And it's just members that can add observations.
Correct. Yes. You have to be invited.
And can the public access the site?
Oh, we don't have it. So if they can go out there and see it, they find it.
There's not being.
There's no link.
No.
Very cool.
So anyway, I just thought you might like to see that.
But it's easy for anybody to do this. I mean,
Yeah.
I encourage everybody here
To participate.
to participate because we all see same things, but we live in different neighborhoods.
I mean, if it's decided to try to get more members to participate, it might be good to advertise it and just show people like this is what being part of this program is, and they can see how simple it is.
Yeah, and which is fine too. There's nothing secret about it. And you just don't we want people that are, invested for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, but we could easily show them a picture and say, hey, and this is how we do this.
Yeah.
Cause it's cool.
Like the screenshots you had in the PowerPoint, that was good too.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my update.
Great.
Did we have anything on throw etiquette?
I don't think we have anything new. We're gonna continue doing it, right? Maybe wait till things warm up a little bit and.
And that was our sit side update. Well, a fire update.
I don't have anything new.
Perfect.
It was a great.
Update. And anything new from town staff on grant asks or communications?
No, other than the announcement about the goat grazing funding for the next 3
Yeah.
winters, that's great.
Awesome. Well, that concludes everything that we have on our agenda as well as this evening. Thank you for your patience. I know we went over a little bit, but it was a robust meeting and it's exciting as we begin this year. So thank you.
And I did forward out everybody that task assignment